He properly seasoned the fish before giving it to the cat also so that she won't mind too much. How could he know that the clan guardian had tasted delicacies that he could never imagine, and he just gave her a leftover fish? It was another great humiliation to the entity. What could it do? Tell him about it and expose her secret? She had come in the disguise of a normal cat to observe Oliver more closely, so she cannot do that. All she could do was accept the fish. It was surely not due to the fact that the dish looked quite delicious. Damn it, this kid is too much. Nom. Nom, if this fish was bad, I would have had him executed publicly. The clan guardian quietly munched off the fish and rested outside for the night. It would try again the next day. Soon it was morning and Oliver felt more refreshed than ever. His eyes were now relaxed and he felt his sense of vision was amplified hundredfold. One thing to know was that he was visually handicapped in his previous life, so for him to see things so clearly was a pleasant experience. After taking a bath, he moved towards the mirror to comb his short hair, but he saw something wondrous instead. His eyes, their color had changed. They had mutated. Earlier, he had deep purple-colored eyes, but now the color had changed completely. Instead of just being a shade of amethyst, there were some other colors as well. Red, black, a bit white. Not only that, with his enhanced sight, he could see a complex pattern in the middle of his iris. He felt dizzy just glancing at the pattern. He dared not to stare at it too much, lest it drained all his mental power. He believed it had something to do with the cosmic void gaze, and not to mention, he felt a mysterious charm in those eyes. They were beautiful and awing to look at. It was as if he was looking at a piece of beautiful, invaluable art. It was a dangerous feeling. He wanted to just keep staring in the mirror at himself. He shook his head to distract himself and quickly combed his hair and left his room. Outside, he saw the clan guardian napping peacefully on a grassy patch. Perhaps sensing his presence, the cat woke up and ran up to him, meowing at him pitifully. He scoffed. Clan guardian was really good at acting. Did she think that last night he had felt pity for her and let her stay? So, then it was good. He no longer intended to offend her. She was an ancient monster that should not be provoked in the early stages of the plot. Despite her harmless appearance of a white cat, she was way darker than a demon inside. Looks can be deceiving indeed. Oliver nodded to himself. In the novel, there were many wolves in sheep's skin that he had to be careful of in the future. Do you want me to adopt you? Oliver looked at her and asked the obvious. The cat furiously nodded, which made his expression weird. Do you not realize that by nodding your head, you're technically telling me that you can understand human tongue and are definitely not an ordinary cat? He felt that perhaps the clan guardian had grown senile. Nevertheless, he had made some arrangements beforehand. All right, I will own you from now on. Meow. Cat jumped happily. Finally, I succeeded. Then I will need a name for you. How does socks sound? Oliver sucked at naming, so whatever came to his mind, he spat. Socks? Are you kidding me? I know that I have the same color as your socks. Still, how the fuck do I look like a sock? She growled at him, making him rethink his decision. Huh, this is tough. How about Zippy? He thought for a moment and remembered that a stray dog from his past life was also called Zippy in the neighborhood, so he said that. Seeing the cat was satisfied, he nodded. Now that everything was settled, he let the cat enter his house and took out a fluffy cushion. Zippy, the clan guardian who had been named, thought it was supposed to be her seat and was about to sit on it when she saw Oliver sit on it. Huh? What are you looking at? Is there a rat in the house? He looked around confusedly, found nothing odd. After that, he ignored her and assumed a meditative posture. Feeling the aspera around him, he tried to draw in the aspera towards him, but the flow was pathetic. It was as if only one particle out of 200 entered him. It's no use. Unless I obtain an inherent talent from Nadia, I cannot try this. And for that, I would need to wait for her to make a milestone in her aspera training. Well, it should be coming soon if we follow the novel's plot. He grinned to himself, not minding the weird stares of the cat. What is this kid doing? His flow is so pathetic. Can't believe someone from our main lineage could be born this lacking. Then what was that ominous power from before? It can't be that I was mistaken. Can smell it on him." Zippy was confused at him. She thought of some treasures that she had which might help him raise his potential slightly, but they were too precious, and there was no guarantee that he would obtain a great talent after consuming them. So she just laid down and watched him do his thing. If he really could not achieve anything in the end, she would feed it to him and then test out her doubts. Something was better than nothing after all, plus she had no need for those treasures herself. Knock, knock. "Young master, it is time for your lesson." Cold voice sounded from the other side of the door. It was his maid, who often came to deliver food and recite his schedules. "All right, send the teacher. I will be ready shortly." After taking his routine lessons, he was once again free. Cat had wandered off to somewhere, so Oliver did not care much. Now then. Stretching his arms, he looked at the sky with a thoughtful gaze. I should probably help Nadia achieve a milestone. Indeed, after much contemplation, he had arrived at the conclusion that the faster he would help her grow her strength, the stronger he would become as well. So instead of lazing around in the courtyard all day, which was a bad habit, he decided to do what he could at the moment. Although his scope of operations was limited to the Mystic Purge clan, there were still some things hidden here and there in the clan which he could potentially obtain. In the original novel, those items were usually obtained by some minor characters, so he thought that he might as well give them to Nadia to increase her power. Anyways, they were just some booster items he could spend on her for growth. He had decided that rather than just sitting idly, he would help the main characters grow, so he can obtain more benefits. If I know from the novel correctly, near the oak tree at the western area of the clan, there should be a huge rock, and 29 steps away from it, just beneath the ground, should be something that could greatly benefit Nadia. He quickly finished his business and went out towards the western part of the clan. Clan was a huge place. It was not an exaggeration to claim that their clan was no smaller than a city itself, just that it was secluded and not many people knew the exact location of this place. Clan had everything one could need. It was a self-functioning city in itself. Town was divided into regions, east, west, north, south, and central parts. From tall and traditional styled houses to shops selling weapons and food, everything was properly arranged in the town. The central area was the place where his father, mother, and rest of the siblings lived. Along with them, the important elders or the important individuals also resided there. His house was located in the east, just a little away from the central area. This was also probably why that most people were unaware of his existence. He sighed. The world was really cruel, but his family was even more. He was mature by mind, so he did not care, but had it been a real child, to be isolated like that from their family, it would have severely affected their psyche. Anyways, his goal for the day was the western area of the clan. He quietly left his courtyard, and after an hour of traveling, he directly reached the specified spot. He received a few strange gazes on his way, probably due to his symbolic white hair, but he ignored them naturally. Pat pat. It should be around here. He kicked the ground with his feet and measured exact 29 steps from the rock near the oak tree. It was an unimpressive spot that no one really cared about. To think there would be a treasure item hidden just beneath this place. He shook his head and retrieved a shovel he had brought along him and started digging into the spot. It did not take him long before he felt some resistance. Bang! That's it. He threw the shovel away and used his hands to clean the dirt and soil away from the metallic box. It was a small and ordinary-looking gray metal box. However, the box gave off an ancient vibe upon looking. Body-strengthening elixir? This is great stuff. His eyes shone as he inspected the contents of the metal box. Elixirs were potions that, upon being consumed, provided the person with a permanent advantage in their aspects. Elixirs were a rarity, and countless alchemists worked daily to produce one. Yet it was not an easy feat to be achieved. Only alchemists, with a fine control over aspera and excellent dexterity, could dare to produce them. And each elixir once produced was sold at sky-high prices in the market. The art of potion crafting was ancient and was strictly regulated by the clans. Even in his clan that had multiple strong alchemists, an elixir was still a rare item to be obtained, and people would send endlessly to get their hands on one. The advantage was too great after all. Who would dare to reject a permanent boost in their abilities? If someone was lucky enough, they might even awaken new powers through consumption. In a world of demons and wars, for a hunter, such a thing was priceless. Alchemists were highly respected for this reason alone. They were known for their ability to produce miracles. This potion in his hands was also probably the work of some ancient alchemist of the clan, who might have hidden it for some purpose, or just leave it as an inheritance for their future generation. Unfortunately, their family either did not continue, or this precious item was lost by them. Whatever it was, now it belonged to him. No, it belongs to Nadia. He laughed and went back with the box. It had been some time since he last met her, and he was quite curious how she will react after seeing him. She should not attack me like last time, probably. I made sure to leave a positive impression on her last time after all. With that thought, he went back to his courtyard first and stored the metal box somewhere. The elixir was inside a long glass tube and was radiating a shiny and sparkly bluish color. It was quite beautiful to look at, one of the features of an elixir. He carefully stored the elixir in the pocket of yukata. That's right, the culture that his clan followed seemed to be closely tied with the Japanese culture in his previous world. Although now that the world had become plagued with wars and demons, the concept of countries and boundaries was now vague, and everything where humans lived was considered a human territory that was under the rule of one of the 5 clans. He made a trip to the central area of the clan once again. He was no longer restricted to his courtyard anymore and was allowed to move around. But when he entered the central area, felt a chill on his back. It was as if he was being observed, countless eyes. He discreetly tried to look around and found that people were minding their own business, not exactly paying him attention. No, they are definitely observing me through some means, or it could be the hidden guards in the area watching me. Earlier, when I visited the central area, I did not feel anything, but now after awakening the special eyes, I can feel them. He instinctively felt the urge to use his special eyes to counter, but refrained. He dared not to show anything lest he was taken directly by his mother. He made up his mind and ignored the hidden gazes and moved along the street towards the courtyard of his sister, Nadia. It was still some distance away. It should take him around 20 minutes to reach by walking. He exhaled slightly. His entire body was tense from the feeling of someone constantly watching his every step. Could not help but lose focus again and again. Was very irritating. He wished that they could leave him alone. It is as if I am some sort of enemy of theirs that they must keep watch on. Oliver annoyedly thought as he kept moving forward. He was already in the central area of the town, and all around of him were tall houses with entrances to the courtyards of important people of the clan. As he walked deeper, the amount of people became less and less, signifying the importance level. And that's how I defeated them, brother. Suddenly, Oliver's ears picked some noises from ahead as he raised his head and narrowed his eyes. There was a group of people walking his way. They all seemed to be older than him. All of them were wearing traditional yukatas. From just one glance at their clothes, anyone could tell they were lavish. They were much better than Oliver's plain cloth. No way. Why do I keep encountering troubles? Oliver's mouth twitched. He quickly recognized them to be his older siblings. They were his 2 older brothers, the second and third oldest sons, along with the third oldest daughter of the family. They seemed to be walking out to somewhere, and he just happened to bump into them. Although there was not much info about these side characters, but from the nature of the clan and their upbringing, he was sure that they all must be trash among trashes. Pretend I didn't see them. Oliver tried to lower his presence. As much as he could try to do so, he hoped that they will just ignore him as a passerby and he could reach his destination. Last time, he did not encounter any troubles at all, but this time, he was met with all annoying things from hidden guards to these siblings of his. Hey, who are you? A voice sounded from behind Oliver, making him feel goosebumps all over his skin. He immediately turned around to see the third oldest brother of his looking down at him. Just one moment ago, They were in front of him, and now they were behind him. This level of speed was terrifying. This area and beyond is only accessible to direct family members of Mystic Purge clan. Don't you know? The older boy commented in a plain tone. There was something like this as well. Oliver exclaimed. Sure enough, this seemed possible in such a huge clan. But, Shane, look at his hair. Why does he have the same hair color as Mother? The third miss of the clan also came near and observed his features as she asked her twin brother, the one who had approached Oliver the first. Usually, white-haired people were only the direct family members of the clan. It was not that they all had white hair, but since Ophelia had white hair and majority of children inherited her hair, so they were known by their hair color throughout the clan. Now that you mention it, he does share the same hair color, but I can't recognize him though. The oldest of the three also came forward, and now Oliver was surrounded by them. All three of them gave a strong pressure. It was as if he was surrounded by three ferocious beasts in the jungle. I will ask again, who are you? What do I say? It's better to be truthful here. It's not like I did something offensive that they will hurt me, right? With that thought in his mind, he calmly replied, I am Oliver, Oliver Mystic, fourth son. Before he could continue, a powerful slap connected to his right cheek. Force sent him throwing backwards. Ha! Oliver coughed out blood. The inner skin of his cheek was peeled by the force as blood filled his mouth. How dare you say yourself to be a mystic with that minuscule amount of strength? Are you looking to die? The third miss was the one who had sent him throwing. She coldly looked down at him. She did not believe that he was their sibling at all. Every single member bearing the blood of the Mystic clan's direct lineage was a living legend, and so were their descendants. A weakling had no place in their family, and Oliver was the exact definition of weak. She could sense that he barely had any aspera inside him. It could not be possible that he had so much aspera in his body that she could not sense. After all, there were only two cases where either the person's aspera level was too high or too low, that one cannot sense it. From the looks, Oliver was younger than them, and therefore it was impossible for him to surpass them in aspera quantity, unless he was some exception genius, which he clearly wasn't, or else they would have known of such a sibling. Impersonation of the direct family members of the Mystic clan was a serious crime and demanded on-spot execution. Get up and explain yourself. Condescending voice echoes above Oliver as he slowly looked at them. Get up. Shane also joined her and ordered him to stand back. Who are you, and why are you here? Oliver slowly raised his head as he tried to get up, only to receive a strong blow to his abdomen. Shane had just kicked him in the stomach. Oliver once again crashed into the wall. He felt as if the air was sucked out of his lungs. The kick was very strong. I cough. He was not even allowed to speak before he was thrown over again by her. Weakly, he looked at them only to see devious smirks on their faces. It was at that moment he realized something. They did not care whether he was genuine or not. They wanted to beat him to death for their fun. They were enjoying the process of beating him again and again as he tried to get up and explain. They were both sadists. No, the entire family was a bunch of cruel, psychotic sadists. He realized this. In the novel, it was especially mentioned the clan's alignment and nature. The Mystic Purge clan was dark, and people from this clan harbored sadistic tendency. It was due to the way they were raised since birth that their mental state was bent towards torture and death. He had not seen such a nature in Nadia last time, and had ignored the fact as such. When he saw her cry pitifully last time, he was placed under the illusion that all was good. Who knows that he might not have seen her true nature yet? She might not have shown her true self last time. Frowned as he felt a sharp pain in his arm. It was as if his bone had been dislocated. They had not intended to listen to him since the beginning. He was already a target for them the moment they spotted him and saw his weakness. Bam, bam. In the next few minutes, quiet surroundings of the road were filled with bashing and slamming sound. It was as if someone was hitting a wall with iron pipes or using a punching sandbag. While this was the sound of Oliver being beaten, at the moment, state was quite serious. He was bleeding from several areas of his body, and one of his arms was twisted backward. His legs were bent, and his smooth and fair face was filled with scars and bruises. In front of him were Shane and his twin sister, the third miss, as he laid on the marbled ground. They both had flushed expressions, and were panting slightly, as if aroused from the scene in front of them. Oliver, on the other hand, was miserable. He tried to squint his eyes but couldn't. Hot tears had filled his eyes, blurring his view as he looked at the clouds in the sky. Due to his condition, his mind didn't even think of using the special eyes to stop them. He had yet to get accustomed to his special eyes so that his brain could use them. The oldest of them had not moved from his spot since the beginning. He seemed uninterested and just observed from the side. He could not care less if a weakling or two died. "Finish your thing. We have somewhere we need to be, so don't waste time." His cold voice served as a reminder for the two siblings as they glanced at one another. "I will finish him off. Also, Shane, don't forget to remind the guards to not let weaklings like him ever step foot in here," she said as she glanced at thin air, as if she could see all the hidden guards watching them. Shane just nodded as he watched excitedly his sister finish off the boy. Just as she was about to land the final blow, a chilling voice interrupted everyone. "What are you doing?" The voice was icy cold, seemingly devoid of any emotion at all. Everyone present felt the temperature drop by a few degrees instantly, and they could not help but look at the source of the voice. With silvery white hair floating against the wind, old amethyst eyes, and an emotionless expression on her face, Nadia was standing just a few meters away from them. But what shocked them the most was that none of them could sense her approaching. They all instantly recognized her, Nadia, the monstrous genius of the clan, and the possible next matriarch, clan. They all sucked in a cold breath when they saw her. She was famous for being a ruthless, cold-hearted witch. From excellent academics to near-perfect exorcism abilities, she was someone they could not hope to reach. At that moment when they were asked a question by her, none of them was able to speak a word. Finally, the oldest of them all mustered some confidence and moved forward to speak. "We were just taking care of a pest that seemed to have sneaked in this haven. Aha." Even though he was older and stronger, he still felt plenty nervous at the moment. In terms of talent, Nadia far surpassed any of them. Nadia listened to them and glanced at the almost broken Oliver. She looked at him for a moment, observing his injuries. She felt nothing. For a moment, she seemed disappointed, but nothing more. Then she glanced at her siblings and saw their faces etched with silly and nervous smiles. This was indeed the reaction she expected from them. They were, after all, inferior. "Leave." One word was all she said, and the faces of the siblings changed instantly. They all understood what she meant. Apart from Oliver, everyone was to scram right at this moment. Her word was like a command rather than a request. Shane and his twin sister were unsure. They did not dare to offend Nadia and waited for their older brother to decide. The older brother in question also had a flushed face. Nadia's command was an insult to him. He was older than her, but was treated as such. "Don't go too far, Nadia. I am the older." He could not even finish his sentence before he retreated 10 steps back quickly. His hand went to his face. A fresh cut was formed on his cheek that started leaking blood. His eyes had a trace of fear. He almost could not catch up to her movements, and she had already managed to harm him. This was the difference in their ability. "I will leave." Quickly knew that any further confrontation would only be a disaster. We tactfully surrendered. "I will leave." He quickly realized that any further confrontation would only result in disaster, so he tactfully surrendered. But before leaving, he glanced at the half-dead Oliver with a fierce glint in his eyes. He had some thoughts at the moment that no one else knew about. After the trio left, Nadia slowly walked up to the unconscious Oliver and crouched down, observing his bruised face. She looked at the sky, and her eyes shone in a strange color. In the next moment, all the hidden eyes suddenly left their vicinity, leaving the two alone. This was her authority. "With this, we are even," Nadia said as she took out a small glass tube carrying a green liquid and slowly poured its contents into Oliver's mouth. She watched as the injuries on his body quickly started to recover at a tremendous speed, and in a minute he was fully back from his half-dead state from before. Cough, cough. With a few coughs, he suddenly inhaled a large amount of air as his eyes opened wide. He quickly sat up and saw Nadia looking at him with no particular emotion. "We should be even with this," she said as she got up. "My injuries are all gone? Did she use a healing potion on me?" He wondered as he touched his face and felt his smooth skin once again, indicating a full recovery. "I am saved." He felt weak from inside. He had never been beaten so badly in his 2 lifetimes. At the time he was being beaten, felt death closely. He was scared and powerless. Suddenly, a burst of rage surged from within him. He should have used his special eyes on them at that time. But upon further thought, he believed that it was a good decision that he did not use them. The entire area was surrounded by hidden guards making note of everything. 2, he still did not have the appropriate mastery over them. And third, he was beaten so fast that his brain could not process even to think of using them as a means to save himself. This all suggested that he still did not have enough experience in using his special eyes. He felt like a retard. Even after having such great power in his hands, he still got beaten up. What was the use even after all this? He shifted his thoughts away as he saw Nadia walking away, back to her courtyard, quickly followed after. "What?" She paused and looked back, her eyes still cold as ice. "Wait a moment, Nadia. Originally I came here to give you something, so take that before you leave." Oliver also did not want to stay there anymore. Quickly wanted to go back to his courtyard, form a revenge plan. The rest. He had decided that the trio from before were as good as dead from this moment. Nadia furrowed her brows. Came here to give her something? Suddenly, her heart rate accelerated as she watched him take out a blue glass tube from his pocket. An elixir, a body-strengthening elixir. Her heartbeat suddenly quickened. She didn't know why, but looking at him taking out a body-strengthening elixir made her feel itchy in the chest. No, it was not because of the body-strengthening elixir. She could have gotten one for herself if she had asked from the clan. It was due to something else. It was because of the fact that he had come all the way here to give this elixir to her. Why? She opened her mouth, but no words seemed to come out at the moment. She seemed to want to say something, but could not speak. "Why can't I speak?" she asked herself. She wanted to interrogate him about how he found this precious thing. She felt as if there was a lump in her throat prohibiting her from speaking. He had come here to give her an elixir and was almost beaten to death. She knew the rarity of an elixir. Although she could easily get one from the clan, it did not mean that they were not precious. She knew that even her siblings would need to spend many resources to obtain one of the elixirs. Logically speaking, if by any chance he got his hands on an elixir, it should be obvious for him to use it on himself rather than give it to someone else. Wasn't he much weaker than her? This was so foolish. She wanted to be disappointed at his lack of intellect, found it hard for some reason. Instead, her heart rate increased and her face felt hot for some reason. She was feeling a sudden burst of unknown emotions. She did not know what was happening. Suppress. She tried to suppress the loud beating of her heart. She did not want him to accidentally hear her loud heartbeat. It would be a great blow to her pride if that happened. She was shocked once again that she could not calm herself down. This feeling, it was the same as that time when she cried for the first time, and it happened in front of him at that time too. She had thought that she had grown up after that shameful incident last time, and has increased her mental resistance as well. She did not understand what he did that always made her lose herself. She would never act or behave like this whenever she was around others. But now? And why was it that it always was him? Didn't her mother also provide her with extremely precious and rare resources all the time? So why did she not feel like this for her mother? This all felt too confusing for the little genius. For someone like her, who had been learning to discern people from a glance, felt conflicted with herself. Here, take it quick. Don't refuse. I am very lacking in talent, and this won't work much on me, so it's better for you to use it and grow stronger. Oliver, who did not know what his expressionless sister was thinking, quickly stuffed the elixir into her hands. He did not want to stay in this place any longer, lest some more nuisances popped up. Someone annoying really did come this time. He did not think that he could restrain himself from using the special eyes like earlier, especially now that the guards were not there either. He had to plan for his next steps and search for other treasures and opportunities for her if possible. Taking her hand in his hand, he put the elixir carefully and quickly left the scene. Nadia, who saw all this, could not help but tremble a little after he left. She was shocked at herself. She actually let someone hold her hand. She, who would never let anyone be in 2-meter radius around her, actually allowed this? No. More importantly, she realized that she was not on guard at all. She had always been trained to remain on her guard at all times, even against her own family, every second of the day. But now she did not even realize when he took her hand and put the elixir on it. How can I be so careless? She mumbled to herself as she stared at the elixir in her hand. She could still feel the warmth of his hand. Unexpectedly, she did not hate this. As she returned to her courtyard, she once again looked at the bluish glowing elixir and paused. Did she have someone verify it for poison? But when she thought of his face, she expelled the idea. For some reason, she did not think that he would try to poison her. Have I gone crazy? Was it due to their connection as twins that she felt this way? What am I doing? She touched her head, her eyes slowly widening. Why am I behaving like this? It's normal that I get it tested for poison, so just why? Just why am I hesitant? She clutched her short hair in frustration. She had always been rational and always took the best decisions in every situation, yet now she was acting so stupidly. A moment ago, she was thinking that he was foolish, and now she was being even stupider than him. It frustrated her. Never in her life had she felt frustrated over something, yet she was like this now. It was all because of him. No, he surely can't poison me. He should be aware of the consequences of it. I am the best weapon the clan could polish. If something happened, then he would too. He must know this, right? Nadia thought of many reasons that this elixir was not poisoned by him, connecting her assumptions. Some part of her mind knew that she was just making up things to satisfy herself, that she did not needed to get this tested. Poison? After minutes of self-contemplation, she made up her mind. If this thing really carries a poison, then so be it. I will test myself through this. If I am weak, I will die, and if not, then I will survive. It will be my fault that I took this, so it does not matter. Pop! She opened the lid of the tube, and a rich and strong aroma spread in her courtyard. This elixir seems to have been preserved for a long time. This rich smell and thickness. It is definitely not the same as the ones that are made now. She quickly analyzed the elixir. It was said that the more aged an elixir was, the more potent its effects become. And the one in her hands right now was very ancient. She could tell from the smell alone. Her amethyst eyes shone in a strange light as she looked at the elixir for a moment. It was as if she could see everything in the elixir at the moment. She was currently using the abyss eyes that she had awakened some time ago to see through the elixir. I still lack proper mastery. I should have been able to tell if it carried poison or not just by a look. I will train harder from now on. Oliver could not have expected that just a simple action of him giving her a potion could help her steel her resolve even further. It seemed to fuel her more. Gulp, gulp, gulp. She drank the elixir in one go and quickly circulated the aspera in her body to ready herself for the effect. Boom. Ding. Target has consumed a rare body-strengthening elixir. Ding. 10x benefits obtained. Ding. Permanent 10x increase in physical strength. Oliver paused, suddenly feeling a warm current flowing throughout his body, reaching every part of him. He sensed a strong surge of vitality and energy coursing through his veins. Every cell in his body felt recharged, brimming with energy. Brat. As he stretched, he heard the sound of his bones popping, as if they were adjusting to become more compact and stronger. Clasping his fists, he felt the growing strength, making him believe he could punch through metal. Status, he muttered, having tried earlier without success to see a panel. Nevertheless, he attempted once more, curious to see if his increased strength would reveal his status. He had experimented countless times before with the system, hoping for a full-body analysis, usually to no avail. Trying again, He wondered if there was a required trigger or if such a feature did not exist at all, deciding to give it one final attempt. And he guessed correctly as a black panel suddenly opened before his eyes. Name Oliver Mystic, race, strength level 3, Hesperisma, luck level 2. A general overview of his body's status appeared before him. Carefully observing the attributes, he had no clue what determined these levels. He wondered what the maximum limit for these levels could be, and was greatly shocked by his strength. Even after obtaining Cosmic Void Gaza and increasing his strength tenfold, he was still evaluated as only level 3. Then how strong would level 10 be if he already felt capable of punching through metal? Damn, this feels both motivating and depressing at the same time. Shaking his head, he only needed to wait for Nadia to quickly raise her strength, and he would naturally reap benefit. But still, my Esper talent is so pathetic. Couldn't help but feel speechless. It was quite shocking that someone born from the genes of Ophelia and the clan patriarch could be so weak. More importantly, I need to deal with them. He thought to himself, already forming a revenge plan against the trio who had beaten him today. He was narrow-minded and could easily hold grudges when wronged. It was a mentality he had followed in his past life as well. He would never provoke others, but if provoked, he wouldn't hold back. Although it was somewhat cliché that first he was beaten by them, then he sought revenge, what else could he do? He was furious. If not for Nadia's healing elixir, he might have died there. He wanted to teach them a lesson for messing with him. He was almost dead if not for Nadia's intervention. Couldn't let them go easily. Of course, he couldn't kill them under the watchful eyes of hidden guards surrounding them. It was outrageous that he wasn't assigned any guards, considering his lacking abilities, but it granted him greater freedom and privacy than any of his siblings. Picking up a rock nearby, he slowly clenched his fist, and the rock soon broke into multiple pieces under the force of his hand. Amazing. He marveled at his strength. It was superhuman. He was quite sure that no normal person could do what he had just done, not in this world or his previous one. Noticing the absence of the clan guardian, he wondered if the cat had gone to attend to some business. Well, all I can do now is wait and train some more. Just like that, a day passed. Oliver had mostly adjusted to the newfound strength in his body by now. He felt like he had finally become a superhuman by the standards of his previous world, which made him quite excited and happy. As he meditated to train his special eyes, he suddenly heard discreet footsteps. He felt as if all his senses had been significantly enhanced. His hearing had improved by leaps and bounds. He could even hear the distant sounds of leaves rustling in the wind. Quickly sensed the approaching footsteps. Folding his legs, Oliver observed from the paper door of his room, his eyes narrowing. Through the transparent wall, he could make out a distant blackish silhouette walking towards the courtyard gate. Who could it be at this time? He thought in confusion, slowly standing up and sliding open the door, and he quickly identified the visitor. It was the same second sibling who had watched him get beaten earlier. It was the same second sibling who was earlier watching him get beaten, and later competed with Nadia, only to get embarrassed. But what was he doing at his place? Oliver wore his sandals and looked at his surroundings. His eyes, which would automatically filter out the world for him whenever he looked around, the cosmic void gaze was quite powerful. He could not see any hidden guards around as usual. His courtyard was usually not monitored by the hidden guards unless there was something needed from him, so he did not feel surprised that there was an absence of hidden guards. "Why are you here?" Oliver asked. His tone was a bit cold. It was clear that he was not welcoming of this person. The second elder sibling, who saw that Oliver has completely healed, was surprised a little, considering the serious wounds he suffered earlier. He proceeded to question first, ignoring Oliver's previous question. "Where is your respect? I am your older brother." His tone was arrogant and condescending, as if he was looking down on Oliver. Oliver cringed at the thick-skinned and shameless sibling of his. An older sibling, who watched his younger brother get beaten half to death and enjoyed the whole show without lifting a finger. From your reaction, I am assuming that you don't care about what happens to me? The second sibling was silent for a moment upon listening to his sarcastic remarks of anger. "You are right. I did not feel anything. You should know that strength is everything. We, the Mystic Purge clan, does not acknowledge the weak. If you are weak, then you are nothing," he calmly said, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. "As expected from you." Oliver did not want to argue with him anymore. He directly asked, "What do you want from me?" The second brother of his paused and looked at Oliver's handsome face for a bit. Only now did he realize that his features were terrifyingly similar to Nadia. Earlier, he was too busy to look at his face, and only now he realized this. Looking at his face, the image of Nadia's face converged in his mind as he suddenly recalled the earlier incident where he experienced shame. His face turned ugly as he once again questioned in a superior tone, "Why are your injuries healed? It should have taken at least a week for your bones and skin to even start recovering." He abruptly stopped in the middle as he thought of something bizarre. His eyes widened at his own, though, as he asked in an impatient tone, "Don't tell me. Did Nadia use a healing elixir on a waste like you? It can't be that. There's no way that girl would ever." Oliver looked at his supposed elder brother and felt amused by his expressions. Indeed, it was quite hard to accept the reality that the cold and ruthless Nadia had actually used an elixir on a talentless bastard. If this news were to spread, everyone in the clan would feel shocked. But more so, his mother and father would immediately isolate Nadia from everyone. Ophelia, his dangerous mother, wanted to cultivate Nadia into a perfect and superior existence. To her, emotions were an obstacle that would only get in the way of her daughter's path to greatness. Oliver was very sure that if this brat snitched on them, then his mother would do everything to kill Nadia's emotions. And it may be as worse as torturing and killing him in front of her. He shivered a bit as he realized the seriousness. He really cannot allow this fake brother of his to leave easily now. "Well, I had a healing elixir with me that I used." Even though he knew it was quite useless to lie in front of this guy, still said a few words. And as he had expected, the second brother flew into rage. And as expected, the second brother was immediately furious as he said, "Do you take me for a fool? Are you saying that a pathetic waste like you can own an elixir? I don't think the clan would waste any resources on you. It is up to you whether to believe it or not." Oliver did not say any more. "You bastard, tell me what your relationship is with Naida and why she stopped us last time. I expect honest answers. You dare to play games, then expect to lose a limb or two," he threatened. It was quite clear that he wanted to know why Naida interfered last time. Even though they were twin siblings by blood, did not mean anything in the clan. Only strength was the norm. If possible, he wanted to gain an advantage over Naida, and he believed that Oliver may know something about it. Why else would she interfere? Oliver must have something important. "Do you think you are capable enough to make me say it?" Oliver chuckled, a hint of sarcasm evident in his words. He said, "A coward older brother who ran away hiding his tail between his legs when faced with his talented little sister? You still have the guts?" Oliver naturally had no intentions of revealing anything to this unimportant character at all. Although it was quite true that he might as well have run away cowardly when facing the terrifying Naida, but he did not have to say it. When it came to provoking others, he knew a lot. The characters of the novels were all read by him once, and he knew what triggered them the most as well. He knew that the children from the Mystic Purge clan despised being looked down upon by someone weaker than them the most. So he did just that to provoke this second brother, and the results were quite good as well, as he saw veins popping on his forehead. "Just because I did not face Naida, a weakling like you thinks that he can talk to me? It seems that I was quite lenient last time. You believe that she will come to your rescue here?" The second brother coldly sneered. "She is nicknamed the Dark Seedling. Blood and familial bond mean nothing to her. Today, I will teach you what true strength means." He roared and directly attacked Oliver. He roared as he ended the sentence and threw a punch at Oliver. The speed of the punch was extraordinary, and the impact it could generate was enough to even break a tough metal boulder. However, the Oliver, Punch seemed to slow down considerably, not to mention the permanent boost he received in his strength last time that amplified his senses. But he was also the bearer of the upgraded version of one of the 4 mythical eyes. Punch was as slow as a sloth inching its way across a branch. Each instance felt agonizingly drawn out and easily anticipated by his heightened senses. His lips curled into a small smirk, as he had achieved what he intended. He wanted this brother of his to admit that Nida was the cold and ruthless girl they imagined her to be. He did not even want to leave a shred of doubt in their minds. By angering him through embarrassing provocations, he did just that. Bang! The fist collided, but the result was not what the second brother had been expecting. He was initially thinking that his punch would directly dislocate Oliver's shoulders and might even break his arm. But what happened was that his punch was caught by Oliver's small white hand. The second brother's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw what was happening in front of him. An impossible scene was happening at the moment. Just the last time, when he saw Oliver getting brutally beaten, he could clearly tell that Oliver was definitely not this strong. From the way just light punches and kicks from his little siblings directly injured Oliver, it was bizarre that his punch, which was at least 5 times stronger than their punches, was stopped without any issue. He had seen Oliver's skin and bones getting bruised last time, so he was definitely not this robust and tough. So how did he become like this in just a single day? The second brother immediately retracted his fist. What? At that moment, he felt as if his fist had been caught in an iron grip. No matter how much force he applied, he could not retract his fist back from Oliver's hand. Looking at the unshakable jade-white hand in front of him, his heart suddenly palpitated. A strong uneasiness was starting to spread in his chest as the realization dawned upon him that things were not simple anymore. "Dear second brother," Oliver's soft voice sounded, which drew his attention for a moment as he looked up at his face where their eyes met. What he saw in Oliver's eyes at that moment was something terrifying. It was an abyss, a swirling abyss of darkness and death, an endless void devoid of light or hope, emitting a palpable aura of dread and despair. In those eyes, he saw his deepest fears magnified 1,000-fold, his mind consumed by an overwhelming sense of doom. It was as if he was staring into the abyss itself, and it was staring back, ready to consume him whole, opening its black cosmic maw. This was all happening because Oliver had used the third ability of his special eyes, enshrouding of death. Ugh, black! The second brother puked uncontrollably as tears flooded his eyes, but even then he was unable to divert his eyes from Oliver's. He kept puking uncontrollably. He almost felt like throwing his guts out at the moment. His heart stirred, and he felt it was going to stop at any moment. Death had come to his door. He slowly lost all his will. He was going to die. Oliver stopped at that moment and used his other hand to punch the other party's stomach, and in the next instance, the second brother fainted almost immediately. He knew that if he did not punch him, the other party wouldn't be able to stop looking at his eyes, especially if the other person's mental resistance was not too strong. So he delivered a physical stimulus. Given his turbulent strength, he directly knocked out his so-called second brother. That should be enough. That should be enough. He mumbled as he lightly kicked the unconscious body of the second brother of his. Although he felt that he has successfully diverted the attention from Nadia, but he still delivered a final blow just to seal this ordeal. He knew that he has fully conquered the second brother's mind with fear. He was quite sure that in the future, this brother of his won't even dare to appear in front of him, much less talk about him to anyone. The impact and fear he instilled was too strong. Well, Oliver would need to deliver him back to his courtyard first. After somehow finishing the delivery, he finally returned back to his courtyard and saw Zippy strolling near the gate, as if guarding the entrance. Looks like the clan guardian finished the business she left for. He came to his room and stopped behind the door as he thought about the previous day's events. Earlier, he could clearly see the trajectory of the second brother's punch in slow motion. But when he was getting beaten by them, he was having trouble. He realized that it must be due to the fact that the special eyes were too powerful for his weak body to adjust to. His nervous system has also been boosted in strength when he received the permanent strength boost last time. This probably allowed the special eyes to deliver the signals to his brain properly, and also the reason he could see the fast punch in slow motion. He felt that even now, there was a great margin that he could work on and improve. If he had such strength earlier when facing the third brother and sister, he might have been able to reduce his injuries significantly. Although he had the excuse that his Espera talent was too pathetic, he should have focused on training physically then. He could not always wait for his target to make a breakthrough or achievement. He needs to train his body as well. He shivered as he realized that he might get left behind if he did not train just as much as the main characters. If that happens, his body might not be able to keep up with all the monstrous abilities that he might get in the future. Not to mention monstrous abilities, he would be receiving a tenfold version of those powers. If the vessel itself was weak, then naturally it would break. He doubted that anything could save him then. He might even need to train harder than those main characters in the novels in the future if he wanted to be ready to receive great power. "I need to train hard," he muttered as his eyes turned serious. Yawn. Oliver was also feeling a little tired after all the drama he has been facing since the last few days. I am tired." Quickly went to his bed and slept for the rest of night, not waking until afternoon next day. He was going to train harder to not die out of overdose of power. In the second brother's courtyard, a group of people were gathered outside his room. They all shared similar expressions of confusion, tension, and impatience. They were some of the elders of the Mystic Purge clan. In the clan, there were elders who favored one sibling over the others and provided them with preferential treatment sometimes. These elders were the caretakers of the second son and daughter of the clan head. After receiving news from the guards that the second young master was found unconscious in his room by a maid, they quickly apprehended her and called for an audience. "Youth servant, tell us what happened to him," questioned one of the elders sternly. The atmosphere was thick with bloodlust and pressure. The young maid trembled, her eyes wide with fear as she stammered, "Please, I don't know anything. I was simply going about my duties, serving tea to the young master, when I found him unconscious on the floor. I shook him, but he didn't respond, so I immediately called for the guards. Please believe me." Her voice trailed off in sobs, tears streaming down her cheeks. The maid explained everything that she had witnessed truthfully. The elders also noticed this. They were experienced and skilled enough to tell from her body language that she was not lying and was feeling genuine fear from them. And their common sense also told them that all the servants and guards selected to work in the Mystic Purge clan were trained rigorously. Loyalty was ingrained into their brains the moment they stepped foot into the boundaries of the clan. It was impossible for any servant to even bear thoughts like this. So they just ignored her and discussed among themselves, "What happened to him suddenly? I met him just a few days ago, and he was looking absolutely fine. Wait for some time. The medics are evaluating his condition. We will know shortly." They waited for a few more minutes in silence before being called inside by the doctor. "He is awake, but well. His condition is a bit strange. For some reason, he won't speak at all and would keep on shrieking from time to time. His mental condition looks worse, as if someone had attacked his brain." The medic gave his opinion. "For now, I have given him a few doses of mind-calming medicine. If this persists, then we will have to think of something else." "How can this happen so suddenly? It doesn't make sense." An elder could not help but shout. "Calm down. It's highly unlikely that a high-ranking mind demon has infiltrated the clan. Given the barrier, it seems almost impossible. But then, what other reasonable explanation could there be?" Another elder commented as she fell into thought. "A demon? That's absurd. Are you out of your mind?" The last elder, who had been quiet since the beginning and had a profound aura, finally spoke. "We cannot make bold assumptions without any proof. This is a serious matter. A direct lineage member was attacked as such. According to the hidden guards, he left the courtyard, ordering them to stay back and to not follow him, which is strange. The next thing they know is that he suddenly appeared back in his room in that state." His words made sense to everyone. I further asked for a report on his previous day's actions and found something weird. What did you find peculiar, Elder? The others questioned. He frowned and said, 2 days ago, he was with the third pair of siblings, and they met the fourth son on their way. They got into a fight, and naturally, as you all are aware, the fourth son is a waste, so they did him quite the number. But in the middle of the fight, young Miss Nida intervened. What? Unbelievable. Impossible. The other two expressed surprise. Nadia, most likely future clan head. Not even the elders dared to be disrespectful to her, even though they were much above her in standing in power. They could, but none of them wanted to be on her bad side. She was called the Dark Seedling because of her deadly talent. Usually, every child born to the clan's direct lineage, to Mistress Ophelia, was highly talented. But Oliver was an exception. He was born just a few weeks after Nadia and was deemed utter trash. He had one of the worst inherent talents, truly not worthy of their clan name. However, they suddenly felt something odd. Nadia, who was born just before him, was born with extreme talent, and he was born lacking. It was as if she had sucked all of his talents and abilities while they were in the womb of their mother. This led everyone to make rumors that she was a dark seedling who stole her twins' talents like a demoness. Of course, no one dared to say such a thing openly. Why would Miss Nadia? One of the elders couldn't help but be curious. This is something I am not sure about. Apparently, she ordered the guards to leave the scene immediately after she made him leave in a somewhat shameful method. Sir, are you suggesting that the second young master sought revenge on her later, resulting in this? Did Miss Nadia really do that? No way, but it does make sense. Miss Nadia is capable of such action. She doesn't care about anyone. Another elder said in a half-complaining, half-helpless tone. He was really helpless. He could not say anything to Nadia after all. She had the direct backing of the clan head and Ophelia the Great Witch, and not to mention, she was a growing monster. Every week, she would progress significantly. Anyone sane won't offend her, considering she had a great future ahead. Why would the second young master act so recklessly? It's hard to believe he didn't consider the consequences. He's impulsive, but not foolish. And why was the fourth son even there in the first place? If I recall correctly, he's not permitted to reside in the central area. This all seems rather perplexing. The elders bickered among themselves for some time. At this moment, the senior-most of them, the one with a profound aura from earlier, spoke, making them all silent. It is as you all know, we cannot come to any conclusions like this. We have to get our answers from young master himself. He paused, looking at all the elders waiting for him. Retrieve a healing elixir from the clan resource center. Use my name, I have a few elixirs left, he said calmly, shocking all the ones present. The medics had eyes filled with envy. Getting even a single elixir was terrifyingly hard. The senior elder had a few that he could spare to use. This showed how influential and powerful the senior elder was. I'll fetch it immediately. The junior elder left directly. As long as they used a healing elixir, it was only a matter of time before they got to know everything. In just about 5 minutes, the elder who had gone to fetch the elixir returned. He was carrying along a bottle containing a pale green liquid with a lot of sparkles in it. Just looking at it made one want to have a sip of it. After all, it looked delectable and smelled good. Feed it to him, the senior elder said as he glanced at the second young master, who was tugging his hair so hard that they might just get uprooted. His eyes were widened and his pupils were dotted as a stream of tears kept going down. Young master, please open your mouth. The doctor quickly assisted, placing their hands on his chin. They gently pried open his sealed mouth while the nurses held him. Drip, drip, drip. Slowly the contents of the potent healing elixir were delivered in his mouth as everyone watched with patience as the tube carrying elixir slowly emptied. The doctors and other backed away after finishing the deed, allowing the young master to recover. They observed slowly as his eyes slowly started to relax. His trembling hands also calmed down as he let go of his iron grip on his hair. With shallow breaths, he fell back onto his bed. It was as if all strength had left his body. Could not and did not wanted to get up at all. Young master, are you back? the elder asked in a calm tone as he saw their young master's body jolt at being suddenly called out. Where am I? What happened? He asked, unsure of what was even happening. He opened his eyes and all he could feel his lack of strength and mental exhaustion. He tried to remember what had happened, but all he could feel was fog in his memories. His brain hurt a lot as he tried to recall what happened. Hiss! He hissed in pain as he felt a black wall blocking his access to the events that transpired the previous week. Every time he tried to access the black wall in his memories, he would receive a sharp pain. What happened? Why are elders gathered in my courtyard? Puzzlingly questioned, as he did not understand the situation, but looking at the grave expression on their faces, he devised that something was wrong. It seems he does not remember what has happened.